how many of you, by show of hands, and I want you to shoot them up, how many of you want Hillary Clinton to run for president in 2020? Go. Why not?
Been there, done that. Hillary's day is done. Hillary was the most qualified person that ever ran for president, but the least electable candidate that ever ran for president. And although she will always have those credentials, she is not well liked and she's not popular enough.
Name comes up a lot, and she's got the experience and so forth, but just as you were saying, you know, that's in the past. The Democrats really do. They have to find some other candidates that can win the election.
She's been rejected twice now by the electorate, and I just think that if she runs again, there's not much of a chance. I think it would be a waste if she ran again.
The third time's not going to be a charm for her. She's been rejected.
Even though she's a female, you know, you can't run because you're female or black or whatever. She's old. She's old news, I should say, not old.
She gave us Donald Trump.
Yeah.
That should be enough.
She was the only person that could lose to Donald Trump. I mean, that Donald Trump
Do you guys agree with that?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I don't either.
I think anybody would have lost to Donald Trump because of, he said what a lot of people wanted to hear, unfortunately.
Well, joining me now is the man you just saw lead that discussion, pollster Frank Luntz. So, Frank, you're a professional pollster. What would you advise Hillary after hearing those answers?
To write another book, go do more speeches, but she'll be embarrassed if she does it. And if I was close to her as Mark Penn, who's coming on the show, I would simply tell her, no, you had a shot, you had a good shot, but the time has passed.
You know, I like the one woman, see, I was in school in New Hampshire for a while. I love the woman who says, third time's not a charm. She has the New Hampshire accent. And the other one says, well, she gave us Donald Trump. I think where they might get it wrong is where they say she's the only person who could have lost to Trump. And then the wisdom at the end, the woman said, no, I think, you know, he was saying what people wanted to hear. And she said, unfortunately. But it's interesting to hear that group of people. Was there anyone else that did?
Yes, to my surprise. They complained that she was old, and they didn't really mean her age, but they did a little bit. What they really want is someone who they think who can beat Trump, and they picked Joe Biden.
All right, so they didn't like Hillary, so who did they like? In part two, we do get some of the folks on what they say and who might have the right stuff to take on President Trump, as Frank just said, so let's watch.
If the Democrats don't come up with somebody that non-politician,
Who?
somebody.
Hillary is oatmeal, and the Democratic Party, it may be good for you and it may say all the right things, but the Democratic Party needs somebody with some charisma and some pizzazz, like the gentleman from Texas,
Beto O'Rourke.
Beto O'Rourke.
You think he's good?
I think he seems to be able to maybe ignite the party again, which was something that President Obama could do.
Bloomberg.
Why Bloomberg?
Well, he was mayor.
Huh?
Well, I think he could take on Trump. He has talked about becoming a Democrat now. I think he's actually represented all parties. He knows that, you know, he's got to go to the Democratic side if he really seriously wants to run. His business background, he's very outspoken.
Joe Biden with run for president with a young vice presidential candidate that can go hand in hand with him.
Oh, wait a second. Joe Biden. The other one was saying Hillary was old. Isn't Joe older than Hillary, or it's because he rides Amtrak that makes him more of an interesting candidate?
Well, I'm told that Amtrak created the quiet car because of Joe Biden.
Oh, my goodness.
It's interesting that they're naming people who've been around for a while, but they reject Hillary Clinton. And a lot of those people there, because they're independents and they can vote in the Democratic primary, half of them don't want someone who can beat Donald Trump. Half of them still want Trump as their president. So the battle in New Hampshire isn't just on the left and on the right. If you capture the center, it's 20%. It's additional votes that you can't get in other state primaries.
No, to me, the hilarious thing is when people are saying, well, that guy in Texas, he has charisma, you know, that guy. Like, well, Beto. But it's like the name. I think Beto, O'Rourke, Barack Obama, same this, but, you know, the names are the same. And charisma. People looking for charisma because they know Trump had it.
And they're
has
supposed to,
it?
but these are supposed to be the most educated voters. They're supposed to be the most informed. And what is clear that they're now choosing people not based on policy, but based on personality. And that's changed.
And Trump's personality, contrary to the Jim Acostas of the world, people like that kind of rough and tumble thing. You know, he was our bully, a lot of people thought,
But
right?
that's the point. It has to be for them. If it's just for Donald Trump, he'll fall short. But if he's fighting for me, if he's fighting for us, then he'll be successful.
So if you could advise Trump tonight, keep the focus on America away from your personal squabbles.
And I'd also be saying I'm your voice. Not only do I hear you, not only am I listening, I'm your voice in
The
Washington.
forgotten people, that line from his inaugural and from the convention speech, that really drove it home. Frank, love this. Thank you so much.
Right now, let's switch gears to focus on the road to the White House. It has begun. At least 36 Democrats are floating the idea of taking on President Trump in 2020. Some are even talking about getting into the race.
What President Trump has been putting into this country is so disturbing, so divisive, so dark that I believe that I've been called to fight as hard as I possibly can to restore that moral integrity, that moral decency.
That sounds like a yes.
So I'm thinking about it.
You were in Iowa this weekend. You're running for president?
Very well received there. They want new energy, new ideas, and a new confidence. And that really, I think, emboldened me to make a decision soon.
Lock it up, Swalwell. According to a new poll, Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders, and Beto O'Rourke are the top potential candidates favored to be their party's next presidential nominee. You had a physical reaction to that list.
3 white men. The Democratic Party is a party of white nationalists.
Not really woke.
Well, their nationalities anyway. They're white. Here's what will change the equation. I was doing my Juan imitation. Here's what
I love Kennedy's imitation. Did you hear her do Bernie Sanders?
Yes, that's great.
That was good.
But you know what?
He needs more than 1%.
And light mayo. What changes the equation on your choice? It used to be before you could just like maybe pick the best person, the most persuasive person. Now it has to be the best person who can beat Trump because it takes a special person. It's like you're going to buy a car and then suddenly you realize maybe I need a 4x4 with more traction control and a set of mud tires because it's like you can't. It's like, do I have a Michael Moore, which is like a monster truck, or Bill Nye the Science Guy, which is a Prius? You're going to need to have more of a monster truck than a Prius.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So as you look at this landscape and you see that these go-getters, Sanders, Biden, O'Rourke, that they are potentially the top 3. They're on the podium right now to take on the president. If you're part of the president's team, and we know in some ways you are, Jesse, who are you most excited about as a potential contender?
I mean, I'd take all 3 of them on. You have 1%, you have crazy Bernie, and then you have overrated O'Rourke. So I don't think they stand a chance. I wanted to talk about Gillibrand. I mean, the Clintons are going to drive a stake through her heart. Remember at the height of the Me Too movement where she came out and said Bill Clinton should have resigned? Very ungrateful. The only reason she got her Senate seat was because Hillary gave it to her. She doesn't have the policy chops. She's not inspirational. She's got the deer in the headlights look. It's not going to fly. Swalwell. The name does not really fall off your tongue, okay? He's young, handsome, athletic. He's got that going for him. He's extremely short. No offense, he's extremely short, and I don't think that's going to play. He's also younger than I am. I just don't think he's ready. Maybe he's going to run to investigate.
You think he'll grow? Is that what you're saying?
I don't know. Do you have any sprouts that you recommend?
He's going to pull a Peter Brady. He's going to hang from the swing set.
Yes.
He's going to stretch himself a good 6 inches.
And then his voice will change.
Which headline of what you said is going to be pulled? You got deer in headlights.
They're going to pull the worst
too
one.
Short. You guys, wow.
But also, wasn't Kristen the one that helped get rid of Franken? So that's
yes. And you know, when Democrats run on moral decency, I just don't think that platform as a Democrat, is going to play.
That brings me to my question for Juan, because Democrats really have to decide who's driving the bus. Is it someone who's going to do an impression of the president and get down and dirty and be insulting and continue this divisiveness that they claim to hate, or is it going to be someone with an economic message?
Well, I don't think that's exactly it. I think what you're looking at is who can win in the Midwest? Who can flip those states that were so critical to Trump winning in 2016? Because if you look at the midterms, Kennedy, the blue states, and even now we could say Arizona and Nevada, are really more Democratic territory, I think. And you look at the East Coast, and clearly that's strong Democratic territory. So we're talking about the Midwest, the South remaining strongly held by the Republicans. And you think, well, who can have success there? And I would say Joe Biden. The reason Joe Biden's at the top of this is He calls himself Working Joe, right? Working class Joe, middle class Joe, and he can relate to a lot of those voters. And the other thing to think about with Gillibrand in specific, Jesse, is that women are doing very well in terms of elections as Democrats running in the Trump
But
era.
is Kamala Harris a more impressive candidate than Kirsten Gillibrand?
I'll leave that up to people because we're going to have.
What do you think? I mean, you're a Democratic analyst.
Yeah, but I don't know if Kamala Harris has. In other words, Kamala Harris comes from California, apparently tremendous ability to raise money. We'll see how Gillibrand does in the money raise. That's part of this contest. But Kamala Harris has an advantage in that regard. I don't think it's interesting you hear Greg talk about the top two and quote Michael Avenatti about white men. I don't think that's the issue.
He's not even polling. He's literally at 0%.
But the thing about Biden, the thing about Biden and Sanders is on Election Day 2020, 77 and 79.
Yeah, that's hot.
Yeah, I mean, I think they need someone charming. I think Joe Biden would definitely be the pick. Someone who can speak, kind of, Greg's saying no, but...
Biden, that's a false flag.
No, because
false flag.
He speaks Trump speak. He
Yeah.
does. He's able to appeal. You talked about working class voters. He's not politically correct, and Biden speaks in a way, first of all, he really does listen when you talk to him, and he speaks in a way that people feel that no matter how much money he has, he identifies. No, but he overcomes a lot of that. I assure you he does. I mean, and going against Trump...
talking about Hillary. Do you think she's going to run?
I think she might run, but that would be a blessing to Trump. And that's the biggest blessing.
She's not going to run. She's going to stumble.
That's the biggest blessing.
That's fine.
I thank you. God bless you, and may he continue to bless the nation that has showered this land with love for more than 2 centuries. Thank you all. God bless you all.